It's Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Corey and Mason.
Hello and welcome to Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mason Schmidt, here with my best bud, Corey Knudsen.
Hey.
As we get ready to drink beer, talk about movies, as per usual, we'll be discussing what films we've seen lately, which none of them are new releases, sorry. We'll discuss the new releases that are on the horizon, and we'll also touch base on physical media releases as well as some new movie news. Some of it is really interesting. Swindling Netflix out of $11 million. Why not? Let's all do that. But first, before we get to that, Corey, how have you been? And second, what will we be drinking today?
I have been recording this one a little early this week.
Late. Like, it's late as fuck during the day.
Late in the day, early. Yeah, it's Friday. We normally do it on Sundays, but...
It's Saturday at 1 a.m.
Yeah. Nope.
It's late Friday night.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah. I was thinking Sunday at 1 a.m. Yeah, you're right.
I thought you were just mad because I was saying it's tomorrow now.
Yeah, I don't know. My days are mixed up. I've been watching March Madness. I mean, the first 2 days, there's basketball from 11:15 a.m. to 11:15 p.m. That's what I've been doing. Mind you, I've been working both days. I've still been watching 12 hours of basketball every day.
Your shift is primarily right in that time frame, too?
I watch a little bit in the morning, go to work, and I work at a news station, so there's screens everywhere, so I just get to watch all the games. I've been doing that. It's been incredible. Best time of the year. I love March. It's so much fun. But, and brackets doing okay. I don't want to talk too soon. But all my Final Four is still there after the first 2 days, which is a win.
All my Final Four are still there. I'm doing piss poor. We did like a work bracket, which this past Thursday and Friday, I've been at work, and we have a TV in my office, and I've just been YouTube TV, quad screen, watching basketball while I've been working, and that's been fantastic. I'm not a big college basketball fan unless it's March Madness, and then we all did brackets at my place of work, and I am currently, of the 7 of us, in 7th place, so I am hurting. Not doing well. Did not expect Clemson to lose. The Louisville Creighton, that's a toss-up, but I chose the wrong end of that one. So it's been a little bit nuts, but yeah, this is the best time for college basketball. It's so fun to watch. Also, it was a pretty decent week of movie watching for us, not necessarily in theaters, but Corey, what did you start your week off with?
I'm going to go back 2 steps. I want to shout out.
That was such a good segue.
It was a great segue. I didn't even talk about what we were drinking, so I'm going to go back.
I did skip that, too.
I'm going to go back one further because I want to shout this out, too. The student manager for McNeese, Amir Orakan, my boy. I picked McNeese to go to the Sweet 16 this year because I've just been tracking him a little bit. And then I saw that he was out there and they're ripping like NBA Youngboy coming out of the locker room. And I'm like, yeah, these boys are cooking. They're going to beat Clemson. So shout out to him, first of all.
It was a close game, too.
Very good game. One of the better games of the first couple days. We've been drinking some Wild State ciders. I had the Wild Apple. Which one do you got?
I got the Pumpkin Pie, which actually is my least favorite of Wild State ciders. It's really sweet, but I was just clearing out my fridge. Forgot to go shopping this week in terms of getting liquor for the show, and just had a couple of spare Wild States because we always keep Wild State cider at our apartment. So
yeah, we got the reserves tonight.
We got that, and we also have a glass of Lagavulin lined up.
Lagavulin whiskey, some of the strongest, smokiest whiskey we've both had.
This is like the Nick Offerman Caribbean, whatever. I don't even remember.
It's like aged for 12 years. It's the whiskey in Parks and Rec that Ron Swanson really likes.
It tastes the way I imagine Ron Burgundy's breath smells. But also, like, I don't hate it, so...
Once you get into it, it's good.
Once you get, like, the first initial, like, holy shit, this is going to be a lot. Once you get into it, it's not that bad. I've been having an ice cube melt in this for a while as I've let it water down while I finish my Wild State, so I'm excited to get into it in a minute, but I know the moment I start sucking that shit down, this show is going to go off the rails.
It's
I'm going to be coughing. I'm going to be just screaming. Again, it's 1 a.m., so we'll get evicted. You'll get evicted. I don't live here anymore.
Awesome. Love that. Anyway, so we're just, mixing some shit. It's a good time. But back to your great segue that you
awesome segue. We can just revert back to that. Talk about your fucking movie.
All right, quiet.
Sorry.
So I caught up on Novocaine this week. You obviously saw it last week and talked about it. I wanted to get into some spoilers since it's been out for a little bit now. So spoiler alert for Novocaine if you wanted to go see that. Still in theaters now. Go support an original movie.
Yeah, that won the box office with $8 million opening, which is
sad.
fucking depressing. It was one of the worst box office weekends in Definitely in 2025, one of the worst since like pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
It was dog shit this past weekend.
Yeah, so go check out some movies. If it's not this one, try and just go to the
Go
theater.
to Black Bag. Go to anything. The theaters are fucking hurting right now.
So Novocaine, happy to report that I enjoy this movie. I think I'd give it a B, which I think that's what you give it. Yeah. So I like this movie. I think it's a fun concept. Jack Quaid can't feel pain, and he kind of gets thrust into this action movie where he's rescuing Amber Midthunder's character, who he starts seeing, and it's just like it's a good time. There's really like not a ton of deep things to talk about with this movie, but it's just an enjoyable watch. Ray Nicholson is a pretty fun villain, and I like seeing him pop up. I want to see him in more things because I think it's the nepotism thing, but he's still good.
He works, and it's wild how much he looks like his like young Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see imagine an other world where we got a Dennis Quaid movie where Jack Nicholson's the villain. Like, it's just interesting to kind of see that dynamic.
If this was like the 80s or something, like this would be this movie. So I think the things that really work about this movie, the relationship between Jack Quaid and Amber Midthunder in the kind of first, 20, 30 minutes of this movie, you care about it, and you're invested in it, and so that's what kind of gets you strapped in for the rest of the movie. And then there's a lot of fun action sequences, and they have some gory stuff in there. There's, picking fingernails off, which
that
always gets me.
Shit like that, I can't do. Shit, and that he also busts the fuck out of his thumb to get, a handcuff off, I think, and then he switches it. There are, visceral things in movies that, I see, I'm like, that's cool, or, the hand in the fryer, there's some, gnarly shit that happens where I'm like, oh, that's cool, and I can get behind it, but when it's, it's mostly just, fingers bending backwards, joints bending backwards.
I know, knees for you?
Knees are the worst, the dumbest part of the human body to me. Any knee injury or just knees folding back. Oh my god, dude, that's fucking disgusting. Oh.
Yeah, and I'm glad they didn't shy away from showing some of that gory stuff, and I appreciated that and used the concept well. Mm-hmm. And there's a funny scene where Jack Quaid's getting tortured and he has to act like he's getting hurt. And he's like, "Oh no, stop! Don't do that."
Yeah.
But yeah, so overall, a fun, solid movie. Just a few little kind of nitpicky things that I had with it. There is one scene where Jack Quaid goes to a house that's booby-trapped, kind of like Home Alone. And there's just these a metal spiky ball that comes out of the ceiling and an arrow that goes through his knee. And
you see it all in the trailers.
Yeah, some of the trailer shots. And that sort of felt like it wasn't necessary to the plot. It was more of we kind of need more stuff to show him not feeling pain, so we're just going to have this little sequence. Mm-hmm. So that felt a little weird. Also, and again, this is getting into some spoiler stuff, but it's revealed partway through the movie that Amber Midthunder's actually in on this whole plot to, this bank robbers and kind of these criminals. And we find that out before Jack Quaid does. And I don't feel like there was a reason to reveal that twist so early on in the movie.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to reveal it, cool, but have a purpose for doing it. But then there's also the moment at the end of the movie when Jack Quaid finds out, and you're like, dude, we've known this for 35 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it added anything. And then by the end of the movie, Jack Quaid saves her, and she's in prison because 8 cops died and the bank manager died where she worked at. But Jack Quaid's also just okay with his girlfriend now being a career criminal after one date going on. Yeah. I'm like, all right.
She fed me cherry pie.
Yeah, I was like, okay, you didn't chew off your tongue, so cool.
Which I like that with the concept. There's some interesting things of with his shower, he has a dial to keep it from going too hot so he doesn't overburn himself because he can't feel pain, and he doesn't know when he's chewing on his tongue. That's why he doesn't eat food. He sticks to only liquids. He can't do solids. So I thought there's interesting things within his condition that they found to kind of explore within the film that I really liked.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it a lot, too. It's just, the fun concept, and they do some cool things with that. Really, my only other, little nitpicky thing is that Amber Midthunder and Ray Nicholson play siblings in the movie, which you find out partway through. And they get really cool with just wanting to kill each other at the end without, having any discussion about it. Ray Nicholson is just shooting at her.
Just a switch turns and they're both ready for blood. They're I'm waiting to kill this guy.
He pile drives her into a pallet of bricks at the end of the movie. I'm like, damn, bro, that's your sister.
He's you fucking bitch. It's oh my god, that's your sister.
We're
regardless of the relationship.
Yeah, like, there ain't no conversation here about anything. So,
No.
and like a lot of these things like don't really matter, but just
No.
little things that could be tightened up. And I think the movie's like an hour 50, if I remember right. I think it could be tightened up to like an hour 40. Get like 10 minutes shaved off, and some of that is like the scene I was talking about, just in the house. Like, trim that up a bit, make it like a tight hour 30, hour 40. But yeah, it's enjoyable. It's a good time if you like. I mean, if you've seen the trailer for this movie and think you'd like it, you probably will. It's very much one of those movies. So, like I said, I'd give it a B. It's a good time at the theater.
Yeah, it's a fun enough movie where it's like hard to knock it in terms of like really like harping on a lot of the negatives that are within it. I agree with like and I thought it during the movie and I forgot about it after, but just how quick Amber Midthunder's character and Ray Nicholson are just like, yeah, I'm ready to just put you down at the very end of the movie. I'm like, you guys just really hated each other. If you guys hate each other so much, why are you in on this like bank heist with each other? So that kind of change goes pretty quick. I disagree a little bit with you with the Amber Midthunder thing. I thought it was in terms of the movie, I thought it was kind of refreshing. And thinking back, I'm like, if they saved that reveal to the end, I think it would have felt a little cheap to me. And I think a good part of this movie is knowing that he is this innocent, happy-go-lucky, well-meaning guy is trying to do the right thing to save the girl that he's into. And it makes him so naive to the fact that, like, we all know, like, he's saving the, like, not necessarily the wrong person, but a bad person. So, like, I'm fine with that reveal, and I thought it was kind of like a good break from, like, a formula. But also, yeah, the ending of where he's visiting her jail, I'm like, you guys went on one fucking date, dude. And you're just, like, so gung-ho about, like, yeah, you basically committed murder. Like, you were involved in a murder plot. So there's things in this movie. Again, most of the scenes that are like really good in the movie are within the trailers, and like the surrounding moments that are shown in the trailers, like before what you see in the trailer and right after. So you kind of get a lot of the best moments in the movie are what you see in the trailer. So it's a grievance that you kind of hear a lot, I feel like, with trailers, but it's a fun enough movie. Definitely go see it. Support it because it's not making enough money for what I think it deserves. Because it's a fun movie. Not that they need to make 1,000 Novocaine movies, but it's a fun movie, and I think most people would have a good time with it. I actually stuck out of the theater this entire week. I was originally going to go try and catch Alto Nights in theaters, and then I had like a Thursday screening ticket or a Thursday night ticket. And then I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score, and I'm like, I'm already like not like completely sold on this movie, and it's got like at the time it had like a 33%. I'm like, yeah, which I try not to let that guide me too much, but I'm like, I'm not excited, and I'm not hearing great things. I'm not rushing out to go see this. So I decided to stay in. I've often on this podcast referenced that I have a movie shelf of movies that I've held on to that I haven't watched for like years, and one of them that has been on that shelf is I'm going to say it off the bat, the perfect movie, Decision to Leave from 2022, directed by Park Chan-wook. He is the director of Oldboy and The Handmaiden. The Handmaiden I actually haven't seen. I've only seen Oldboy from him. Starring, I'm going to try my best with these names. I'm a white boy from Minnesota. Starring Tong Wei, Park Hae-il, and Lee Jung-hyun. The synopsis for the film is a detective investigating a man's death in the mountains meets the dead man's mysterious wife in the course of his dogged sleuthing. I kind of went into this, again, I've held on to this movie for a long time. Corey had watched it prior to me, and I remember you just telling me, like, yeah, this is an awesome movie. Way back when I first bought it. It's a movie that I kind of going into thought was just going to be kind of a straight up murder mystery, and I'm sorry as it's going to be me reading a lot of this, because this was one of those movies that immediately when it ended, I was like, I need to jot down notes on this, because I don't want to forget things. I want to talk about specific things that are within this movie that I absolutely fucking loved. And it's not often when I jot down notes for movies. It's usually only in like the two extremes of movies I absolutely fucking hate.
Smile 2 and this.
Smile 2 and this. Smile 2 I hated. And then a movie that I absolutely love. Or like Dune 2 I jotted down notes too. But I think Decision to Leave is a perfect example of show, don't tell. The film consistently throughout the film, it finds ways to represent exposition and conversations through implied action within scenes. It's never like bogged down with over explaining its thing. It allows the audience to kind of just piece it together as it's going. And it's not like the most mysterious movie. You're not like, it is a mystery where you're trying to figure out who committed some of these acts, committed some of these murders, but it's not like the brunt of what's happening. It's about this man who's looking for something in his life that he didn't know he was looking for. It's one of the most soothing films to watch also. It's beautifully shot, and every camera movement is very smooth, and it just, like, pans so well, and every zoom and shift within the focus of the camera is very purposeful. It's a film that belongs to many genres. Again, I went into it expecting it to be just a mystery thriller. This is a romance movie. And not only that, it's one of the best romance movies I've ever seen, of two, like, unlikely suitors. Like, they have, like, an interesting meet cute, and it's when he's investigating the murder of this woman's husband. Like, it's an interesting romance movie, and they do a lot with what love is for people and how it can kind of be a salvation. It's beautiful character work, and there's twists that I never saw coming. And even, like, moments where I'm like, I think it might go this way. I was so excited to watch it happen. I was never, like, getting too ahead of the movie and wanting it to just, like, wrap up. This is a pretty long movie. It's 2:18. And it's just so wonderfully paced. I was never bored by it. And even with, like, slow camera movements, and it's a very talk-heavy movie. There's not, like, a lot of action. It's just great character work nonstop. Again, it's one of the most beautiful films, like, one of the most beautiful, devastating films about love. Every shot feels meticulously crafted and planned, where there will be a character on the left side of the frame, and that will completely, beautifully bleed into the next shot of the movie, where you're keeping your same focus on that same portion of the frame, even though it's not, like, the same character. That's just where the action's happening in the next shot. It's just so well edited. It's one of the best edited movies I've seen, one of the best edited anythings I've ever seen. The cuts are sharp and impactful, with items within each scene helping to influence a transition within that are shared, like with a shared element that would bleed into that next scene. The script is genius, and it puts faith in the audience. There are a lot of implied conversations that the director is willing to give us the aftermath of, and it's very efficient storytelling. It's allowing us to kind of piece things together and not over-explain. Overall, it's one of the most beautiful films I've ever watched. A small thing that they reference or do in this movie that I loved, because it's not something that happens in a lot of movies, unless you're a fan of the movie Locke. It's a movie that shows and has the noise of fucking turn signals and cars, which for me, this is a very idiosyncratic thing about me. I love the sound of turn signals. This just makes me sound so weird, especially in Fords. I remember driving, like, for behind the wheel and in, like, instructing classes. It was like a Ford Escape we drove in high school, and the sound of the turn signal in a Ford is fucking orgasmic to me. I'm gonna bust it in the passenger seat of a Ford.
Just to interject real quick, I have a Ford Escape 2011. Every time that we're in the car,
I think it's a Honda Pilot too. I always think you have a Honda Pilot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Even though I like the sound.
Anytime I, like, toss my blinker on, are you just, like, going crazy in the passenger seat?
I don't know.
Out
of the seams. Oh my god.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but anyway, this movie has, like, it shows real people doing real things, and you hear the turn signals and them hitting their turn signals. I'm like, this is a detail that is skipped in movies, I feel like. This likely will be the newest addition to my 100 favorite films of all time. I've referenced that a lot on this channel. In terms of how I kind of put this into my top 100, I want to rewatch it again to kind of see where it places. After my initial watch, I know that this is going to fall likely in my top 30, which is a massive jump. The last time I added a movie to my top 100 was Dune Part 2, and that was to my number 2 favorite film of all time. This, right now, I think tentatively will be my 25th favorite film of all time, but like I said, I do want to rewatch it. I loved everything about this film. I have no notes. Like, absolutely exceptional. I've been gifted. Going back to this shelf of movies that I've been holding out on watching, every time I go back to it, it's been a banger, except for Naked Lunch, which I didn't get through. But Decision to Leave, yeah. I know not a lot of people are going to watch it because it is a movie from South Korea. It's in Korean. You're reading subtitles. It's a mystery that's mostly just based around a romance between two unlikely suitors. It's such a well-done movie. I implore people to go watch this. I know not many are going to, especially since it's 3 years old and it's in a different language and it's over 2 hours. It just checks all the box for things that people don't want to go see, but it's one of the best things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I remember when you bought this movie, like, years back, and I Like, just one day, it was on, like, the shelf where you had the things you needed to watch, and I just was like, you know what, I need to check out this movie. And I remember just being blown away by it, too. The same thing, where it's just like, I love this movie. I mean, I talked last week about Memories of Murder, but I love detective stories, and so that was just really click with me. And then this one with the romance element to it, like you mentioned, is really great. Park Chan-wook is just... Like, I want to go back and watch so many of his movies, like The Handmaiden you mentioned.
That is now required viewing for me. I need to go back and watch that.
And I'm sure there's a lot of his, like, earlier movies, just kind of smaller things that are really great, too. So I'm glad you finally got around to this one. It's a shame it wasn't nominated for an Oscar the year that it came out, because it deserved it for sure. But, yeah, an all-timer in this decade, honestly. In the 2020s, like, this is an incredible movie.
And I feel like it's underseen. Because, like, when you go back to, like, hey, best of, like, the 2020s or whatever, I don't think you'll typically see this movie on that list. But it definitely deserves to be on that list. If I were to make a list for the top 10 movies of the 2020s so far, it would be high up there. It'd be likely my number 2 or 3. So,
yeah,
definitely go see it if you can.
Absolutely. Moving into, we got the new Snow White movie out. We're shifting gears.
This is our way of satisfying the fact that neither you or I saw the new Snow White movie.
Yeah. I decided to watch Snow White and the Huntsman and the Huntsman Winter's War. I don't plan on seeing the new Snow White in theaters, so this was my way of kind of, doing a little watch through. I've owned Snow White and the Huntsman for a few years now on Blu-ray, and I just haven't watched it. And you know what? This movie's not too bad, actually. It's kind of fun. It was like, I don't know, movies from 2012 are very nostalgic in a weird way. Yeah. I don't know why that year, like that time period. But it's directed by Rupert Sanders. Got a really good cast in there. Kristen Stewart's playing Snow White. You got Chris Hemsworth playing the Huntsman. Charlize Theron's the Evil Queen. You got a lot of the, you got the dwarves. There's 8 dwarves in this movie, which I don't know why they
miscounted.
They miscounted, and then one of them dies. Spoiler alert, I guess. And then there's 7.
The dark origin of the 7 dwarves.
Yeah. Also, this was Bob Hoskins' last film role. He's one of the dwarves. So,
Dopey.
You know what? I don't know. They're not named the normal names.
Just like this guy's mad.
I put 2 of them on here just because I wanted to remember.
Oh, that's what those are. Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't name all of them, but they're not the classic names. One of them is named Gort, and the other one's Quert. I don't know, but I don't know
why.
They just they didn't want to do Doc or Grumpy or anything. It was like Gort and Quert.
I feel like Doc you can keep. That's like simple enough, but like Grumpy, I get why you wouldn't.
Yeah, one of them's named Neon.
That's stupid. Why would that?
But it's Nion. I looked up things. So I'm like Neon. I don't know.
Why
Anyways,
would you do that?
That's really not important. But
is Ian McShane one of the dwarves? What is he?
Oh yeah, he is for sure. Yeah,
crazy. The dwarves cast is
nuts. You got Nick Frost, Eddie Marson, Toby Jones. Yeah, Bob Hoskins. Ray
Whoa,
Winstone.
they got a lineup.
They got a good lineup here of the dwarves. So you know what? It's kind of a fun movie. It's a twist on the classic Snow White fairy tale. It's more of the darker, grittier, that kind of era where everything was dark and gritty. I actually really like the first third and the last act of this movie. It has some cool stuff in there for sure. And I think the middle act gets dragged down a little bit where they're just spending a lot of time in the woods, and then they meet the dwarves, and then they're just kind of fucking around in the woods for a bit, and I'm like, can we get to the battles? Like, that's kind of what I'm here for.
Are the dwarves at least good? They've got to be.
They're, like, fun enough, they got their little banter. And, like, I don't know, the first third is really cool. I think just kind of this twist on the classic story that, the last third has, like, a big battle element. It's sort of... It came out in this time where, like, Game of Thrones was kind of in its prime. Like, Season 2 of Game of Thrones was coming out at this time. And it's very much that and Lord of the Rings and that sort of, like, medieval and fantasy type stuff, which I enjoy. So it leans into more of that, like, the heavier elements of that. Also, this movie nominated for 2 Oscars, which I really wasn't aware of.
Wow.
For costume design and visual effects, which I will say, Greg Fraser is the cinematographer on this movie.
Perfect.
Who shot Dune and Dune 2.
The Batman? Did you do the Batman?
Batman, yeah, Batman. So, like, it looks really good, and you can tell, like, they're on a lot of really great sets and a lot of great locations in this movie, which I appreciated. So, it's a pretty enjoyable watch. There's a weird little love triangle with Kristen Stewart, Chris Hemsworth, and Sam Claflin that never really gets addressed at all, and is really weird, especially when you go into The Huntsman Winter's War, which is a sort of prequel, sequel part. It does both. Kristen Stewart didn't come back because she slept with the director of the first movie, and there was a whole scandal, so the studio didn't really want to, dive back into that, I guess.
I don't remember any of this.
Yeah,
oh my
she
God.
slept with Rupert Sanders, and it was a whole thing.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, so it was wild, so they didn't bring her back.
Oh, Kristen Stewart. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this
Probably
movie
did herself a favor.
You know what? Yeah, Chris Hemsworth, he came back though. He said, "You know what? In between my Marvels, I need to come back." In 2016,
This movie's got Jessica Chastain. That's fucking
Jessica Chastain
nuts.
plays Chris Hemsworth's the Huntsman, his wife, who they said was spoiler alert. Sorry, said was dead in the
For
last
those of
movie.
you that are waiting to watch these
From
two movies.
2016, almost a decade old.
Yeah.
now.
Oh my God.
Which is, I don't like that I said that. 2016 is almost a decade old. Crazy. But yeah, so in the first movie, they're like, oh, the Huntsman's wife is dead. And then this movie, they're like, actually, she wasn't dead. So they do a little retcon there. They also do a little retcon with Charlize Theron because she died in the first movie. And then in this movie, they bring her on back in the magic mirror. So that's a little fun. Kristen Stewart, or I guess the character of Snow White, they reference her a lot in the sequel. But they show, like, her back at one point as obviously like a stand-in for somebody. And they keep referencing, like, oh, Snow White and her army, they're going to come if we don't, solve this. And it's like, no, they're not, bro. Like, she's not even here. The sequel is a little bit messier and, like, not as memorable. It's, I don't know. I still, enjoyed the world enough where there's some cool different elements that you see. And, Emily Blunt is essentially like Elsa. She's like a frozen queen and has her own little fortress. And it's cool enough to see these different parts of this world, but it's not as memorable. The story's not as interesting, and just the retcons of everything from the first movie feel kind of weird as far as these two movies together. So, I actually enjoyed the first movie a decent bit. I give it a solid B minus, somewhere in there. The Huntsman Winter's War, I'd give a C plus, C maybe. So a fun little watch through and a fun. Just sort of bigger movies that I didn't see when they came out, and kind of revisiting them was fun. I'd recommend the first one, but I don't think you need to see the sequel.
I remember when the Snow White and the Huntsman was coming out, and I was not the most interested in the idea of it, but the visuals of it, at least
it looks really
within the
good.
trailer, I'm like, shit, I kind of wanted to see that. I never did. I'm tempted to go and watch it, especially since you kind of you said that there's things that are redeemable about this movie, so I'm willing to sit down and watch it. This and Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters of retellings of, or darker retellings of classic stories. I kind of those are two movies that I both never saw, and I'm just I'm interested in. I know Hansel and Gretel's is probably be ass, and
it's okay. It's all right.
Is it okay? It could be a fun time.
Sort of yeah.
So I'm maybe I just have one weird day where I just have schlocky fun movies like Snow White and the Huntsman, which the visuals of it have always been super interesting to me. I did not remember it getting nominated for Best Visual Effects, but fuck, that's crazy. And also, damn, they must have blown half their budget on the fucking dwarves casting. This is crazy who they got, but. I might actually have to go back and sit down and watch Snow White and the Huntsman, because I've always been somewhat interested in that. And I don't think Rupert Sanders is the worst director in the world, although I did not see his Crow movie, so I can't really speak to that.
Unfortunately.
You did, yeah.
So
Unfortunately is
I sat
the
through
most
5
telling
Crow
way.
movies in a week.
Yeah, you fucking went through a slog of dog shit just nonstop. Where did I know we talked about it a while ago. Where did that Crow movie, the Rupert Sanders one, where did that rank or compare to some of the other Crow sequels, some of the shittier ones?
It's my second favorite of the 5 that we have. I actually do like the first one. I know you're not as crazy about it, but I enjoyed that movie. I like the vibe of that movie a lot. I think it's cool. All of the sequels are just very bad. The second one, I don't really like it. And some people, sort of defend that movie. I don't like that. The third one's okay. The remake has, one cool action sequence. I'm that bumps it up. But,
damn.
I don't know. He hasn't been, his filmography is really weird. This movie, he did The Ghost in the Shell, the ScarJo one.
The live action, yeah.
It's I don't know. He picks interesting things.
Yeah, well, there's a movie that you're gonna talk about specifically in a minute, but I need to the way we positioned this show, I'm talking about this movie next, and this is a movie I really like, but I'm gonna kind of burn through this one pretty quickly because I'm so excited to talk about your next movie. I watched Out of Sight, which is from 1998, directed by Steven Soderbergh. I mentioned that I saw the film Black Bag, which is still in theaters. Go see it. It is, I think, to this day, my favorite of his movies. And I've watched like a decent amount of like his newer stuff and some of his older stuff. This, and he's also known for Traffic, which is what won him his Best Director Oscar. Out of Sight stars George Clooney, Jennifer Lopez, and Ving Rhames, who I love to see in anything ever. It's always interesting that he's always attached to like crime movies or heist movies. I'm like, I think Ving Rhames could probably be in just about anything, and I'd be like, hell yeah, I fucking love Ving Rhames. Synopsis is a career bank robber breaks out of jail and shares a moment of mutual attraction with a U.S. Marshal he has kidnapped. It was nominated for 2 Oscars, one being Best Editing and one being Best Adapted Screenplay, because this is based off of a book. This is such a fun, like, quintessential 90s crime movie where George Clooney, he's this famed bank robber. Like, he's been told that he's robbed more banks in the system than any other criminal in the United States. And he's consistently finding himself in jail. He eventually has a breakout plan, and he runs into Jennifer Lopez, and they weirdly enough have their meet cute moment in like the trunk of a car as they're trying to escape prison. As I watch Corey kind of try and stumble through the last sip of Lagavulin he had left.
Got through it.
It's such a fun movie of just cat and mouse, but also it's not that they're chasing one another. It's that they're trying to get in front of each other, even though they're both on different sides of the law. It's just a very fun film. The editing is very interesting, and it is disjointed at times, and it gives me like, again, I'm looking at this as a person that hasn't seen a lot of Soderbergh films, and he's looking at it after, like, I've seen a lot of Nolan films, and this feels Nolan-esque. I get it that Out of Sight came out first, but this, to me, what I'm most exposed to, what I'm more familiar with, this feels Nolan-esque in terms of the editing, how they kind of structure scenes, and how they'll almost end scenes before we really got everything, and then they'll show that portion like 5 minutes later. It was a really interesting edited film, and I think it does benefit the overall film, and it speaks to why it was nominated for Best Editing at the Oscars, because it's a really interesting story point, because otherwise the story of this movie is rather straightforward, of this man just trying to dodge the law, but also wanting to run into Jennifer Lopez, them having this kind of, not necessarily on again, off again, but just this mutual attraction, like that's referenced in the synopsis, of them wanting to be in each other's attention, but they realize because of who they are, they can't. There's good chemistry between George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez. There's an awesome scene where George Clooney, it's actually like the opening scene where George Clooney is robbing a bank, walks in, sees a guy with an open briefcase behind him, and he goes up to the teller. He's like, "Hey, you see this guy with the briefcase? He's got a gun in his briefcase, and he's gonna shoot the guy sitting across from him if you don't put money in my bag. Like, give me your money in your till." And my wife was sitting next to me, and she's like, "I think I would do anything for George Clooney if he said that to me." And I'm like, fuck it, me too. He's hot as hell, and he's just so, like, in charge of everything he does in this movie. He's so commanding. You can really see the birth of, like, that Ocean's 11 George Clooney in this movie, and I completely understand why Steven Soderbergh's like, yeah, I'm going to keep working with this guy. Because you also have that partnership with him doing a Solaris remake, too, in the early 2000s. But I overall really did enjoy this movie. It's not my favorite of the Steven Soderbergh films, which kind of, as I've looked through, like, hey, what are some of his higher acclaimed movies? What are movies that people really like? Fans of Steven Soderbergh, what are your favorite movies? It's typically like Out of Sight, Traffic, Sex, Lies, and Videotapes. Like, there's like the odd like Contagions and stuff, but it's not one of my favorites. I think if I saw it earlier on in like the films of his filmography that I was like kind of going back and looking over, I might have liked it more, but it's just, the thing for me that makes this movie so special is just how 90s soaked this movie is, and I really dug it. And it has like this Miami Vice kind of like scent to it, this little style to it, where a lot of it is based in Florida, and you get like a lot of those like pastel colors. So visually it's a good movie to look at, obviously with the set decoration, but also you have George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez having a little on again off again thing on screen. So yeah, I'm here for it. Maybe just don't fade to black during their sex scene. Maybe show me a little bit of that, Steven, please. Ving Rhames is great as always. It's a very, very fun watchable movie. It's a concise 2-hour action thriller romance. It's just a fun movie with great character work. You also got Steven Zahn, or is it Steve Zahn? Steven Zahn? I think he's from Minnesota. Do you not know who I'm talking about?
No, I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, Bad Ape.
Yeah. Bad Ape, yeah, obviously. Fucking Bad Ape. But he's in it, and a little odd thing, you know Greg's Barbershop in Buffalo, Minnesota?
Yeah, you've told me this before.
He always, every fucking time, this dude is so old cutting my hair. Every time he's like, yeah, I used to cut Steve Zahn's hair. I'm like, oh, wild. Steve Zahn's in this movie, and he's hilarious, and he's awesome. Don Cheadle's amazing in this movie. There's a lot of, like, the Steven Soderbergh, like, regulars in this movie, and it's just such a good movie. I would highly recommend watching it. I don't think you would be bored, or you'll have a bad time. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I have not seen this one, but I do want to watch it.
Doesn't matter. Move on to what you got to talk about. Move on to your next movie. This movie's awesome. Move on to it.
As I've mentioned many a time before,
Watching classics.
Well, no. I do want to clarify. At the beginning of this year, I said that I wanted to go through the alphabet and pick a movie each week, or try at least each week to, like, start with A and watch a movie that starts with that letter, or that number, excuse me. Nope, letter. Fuck, the whiskey's hitting me.
Yeah,
holy fucking shit. So I started off like Apollo 13 and Boogie Nights, so going through each week, doing that.
You decided to land on just an all-timer this week.
So I never said that these movies had to be classics. It just had to start.
Just glaring holes in your missed filmography.
Yeah, just had to start with that letter. And I was on letter J this week, so I decided to watch Jonah Hex.
Obviously.
Jonathan Hexagon.
Hexagon.
Whatever you want to refer to it as. This is a DC Comics movie. And directed by Jimmy Hayward, who brought us Horton Hears a Who and Freebirds, baby.
What a wild!
Come on.
What a wild filmography.
Let's go. This movie's got a stacked cast. We got Josh Brolin playing the title character of Jonah Hex. We got Megan Fox just in her prime. Like, we had the late 2000s, early 2010s, we had Megan Fox in Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Jonah Hex, and then I feel like there was something else, but it was Megan Fox, just
Jennifer's Body,
that's what I was thinking of. There's no reason for her to be in this movie. She's just like there. She's just like at this, whorehouse being there, and
she's just there to be hot. Like,
she's there to be hot. 100%.
I remember that strictly from the trailers that were playing on Adult Swim at like 10 o'clock at night of just basically Jenna Fox, Megan Fox just being semi-naked, even though I'm pretty sure this movie is PG-13.
Yeah. So she doesn't have a character arc. John Malkovich plays the villain. He's got some long, greasy hair in this movie. Essentially, Jonah Hex, like I said, based on DC Comics character, they didn't really stick with a lot of that for this movie, from what I was reading. So Jonah Hex is again, spoiler alert for a movie from 2010. I like to preface that.
For all of those who are really itching to watch Jonah Hex that haven't watched it
I like
yet.
to preface it just in case, because I don't like to get spoilers for stuff. So Jonah Hex, his family, this takes place during the Civil War, I think.
Yeah.
During the Civil War, and Jonah Hex, his family gets killed by John Malkovich, and then he's on a revenge tour. And then John Malkovich fakes his death, but then he comes back later, and he's trying to create this super weapon that is like these orange balls that... Well, no, first, they have to fire cannonballs at like a city or something, and it's just like a cannonball. It sits there, it doesn't blow up, and then they have to fire this orange ball at it to activate all these other things. They don't explain what this is. Well, they do, but it's within a 2-minute segment where there's just exposition. They're explaining it. Jonah Hex is trying to stop that. He's trying to get some revenge. Megan Fox is there. Michael Fassbender's in this movie. He's playing a little villain, kind of the goon of John Malkovich.
He's got the chin tat.
He's got a lot of tats.
He's got a lot of tats.
Yep. Yeah. So he's there. He's having a good time. He's actually having fun. This movie is just one of the worst things I've watched in a while, but also very fun to watch.
I might buy it right now, actually.
Dude, see if there's a 4K of this. Buy it. It's like an hour and 20 minutes, so it's very quick.
It's quicker than that, the way it feels.
It's almost... I don't know if they didn't film enough for this movie, or they filmed too much and cut so much out. I don't know what the case was here. They rush through everything so quick in this movie. They show the same flashbacks of Josh Brolin's family getting killed in the movie 5 times. And then at the end of the movie, John Malkovich and Josh Brolin are having a fight scene, the kind of climactic, final action sequence. And then it cuts to a vision that Jonah Hex is having in his mind of them fighting in a desert that never happened, but it's just a vision. So you get it intercut between the two. I don't know whose idea that was. It's crazy. It's weird. It doesn't work. You don't get attached to any of these characters. You don't care.
I care. I care
Mason
a lot.
cares. I think the character of Jonah Hex is like kind of cool, like being a DC Comics thing set in the Old West. And even with this movie, like it's something they didn't do in the comics, but he can touch dead people, and like they come back to life, and he wrestles with them for a second. Like he's just touched somebody in their grave, and they come back like ah, and they wrestle for a second, and then he gets the info he needs. And like that's not a part of the comics at all, and they just like made that up for this movie.
It's a decent concept.
It's
like,
like,
almost an idea.
It's almost an idea. Like, and it's there's like the Jonah Hex character. I'm like, that's a bounty hunter in the Old West. His family gets killed. Like, there's stuff there. It's kind of cool, but they don't do anything interesting with it. But it is really one of those so bad that it's good movies you watch, and you're just like, wow, this moves quick. It's not good, but it is fun to see this weird like early 2010s era of like overly saturated comic book movies. Let's throw it all at the wall. Yeah. I don't know what it is. So Jonathan Hexagon.
What would you rate this?
I'd probably give it like a D.
Yeah.
Probably solidly that. I won't give it an F just because it is like, it's a little fun, and it's like, for me this week, I was like, there's not a ton of movies that start with J that I haven't seen that it's like a classic. So I'm like, what's a like DC movie I haven't seen? And this fell into that. So Jonah Hex, truly a time capsule of a movie.
I fucking love this movie. It's not good. It is one of the biggest heaping piles of dog shit I've ever seen. And I've seen it twice in my life.
Wow.
I remember, I went back and saw it again. But it was mostly just to validate, because the one time I did see it was when I was 10 years old, because I made my mom rent this movie. I saw this trailer play on Adult Swim so many times, I'm like, I need to watch this fucking movie. And she rented it, she was a saint. We watched it, and as a kid, I'm like, yeah, this shit slaps. Megan Fox is hot. Josh Brolin's doing weird shit. He's got a cool face prosthetic where he's all burned up. He's got some decent powers. He's on a revenge quest. Hell yeah, this movie's awesome. The movie's ass. It's not good. It's not worth your time. But in reference to one of my favorite YouTube film reviewers, Jeremy Johns, it's a good time if you're drunk. And I wholeheartedly believe in that. Get like not even a little drunk. Get like to the point where you're going to need to seek medical help and medical assistance, and then throw on Jonah Hex. It will correct you for the rest of your life. It's such a wild, stupid, dumb shit, awesome movie. It's so worth your time, but it's also going to be the worst time you have watching a movie. It's such an enigma. So I would recommend everyone at some point in your life, maybe if it's on your deathbed, if it's one of the last things, bucket list items you want to do, work it in there somewhere. Watch Jonah Hex, because you will not forget it. Regardless of what you think, you will remember watching Jonah Hex, and you'll either be like, wow, that was ass, or wow, that was ass. Truly a wild time. I'm so happy you watched this.
Me too.
It's a movie that I am heavily nostalgic for. I almost want everyone to be cursed with this movie a little bit. Thankful that you watched it. While you watched this Western classic, I went back to the early 2000s to also revisit a Western movie that I've never seen. I'm not following any sort of alphabetical thing, but Jesse James is in the title, so to fit that J thing, I watched The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford. If you didn't get that title one more time, The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford.
Better or worse than Jonah Hex?
No, it's better. It's a better made movie. It's directed by Andrew Dominic, for the director of Killing Them Softly, which is another Brad Pitt vehicle, and Blonde, which is the Marilyn Monroe movie with Ana de Armas that came out on Netflix with, is it Javier Bardem that's in it, or no? Is he not in that? Doesn't matter. Heard the movie's ass. I know you saw it. I didn't see it. I was like, I heard a lot of weird things about this movie. I don't care to see it.
It's alright.
Regardless, again, the title, The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, stars Brad Pitt, Casey Affleck, Sam Rockwell, Jeremy Renner, Mary Louise Park. I had to put one woman in there, even though she's the only female character in this movie, and she has... The only thing she does in this is care for the kids. It's crazy. Synopsis, Robert Ford, who has idolized Jesse James... I almost said Robert Redford. Just looking at Robert Ford on my computer.
Really hit the
Robert
you hit the
Ford.
synopsis.
Yeah. Robert Ford, who has idolized Jesse James since childhood, tries hard to join the resurgent gang of the Missouri outlaw, but gradually becomes resentful of the bandit leader. This is like a depiction of Jesse James towards the end of his life, as he's not necessarily regretful, but he's still trying to do his thing. He's still trying to rob trains. He's not necessarily going out seeking to murder people, but he's an outlaw. He's a threat. People are after him. He has that legend to him already, but he's also like has like a failing mind. Like he's kind of dwindling, and he kind of the film takes time to explore his mental state slowly decaying. This isn't like a shoot 'em up Western. It is very much the thinking man. Like, you need to just like sit here and almost sulk. And this already sounds like I'm griping about this movie. I actually really enjoyed this movie. I just can't foresee myself really running out to watch it again. But I am very happy I watched it because it is shot by Roger Deakins, and it has some of the most beautiful, stunning shots I've seen in a Western film, which is to say a lot because Western as a film genre has some of the most visually appealing cinematography in terms of the history of cinema. The cast is stacked. Everyone's fantastic in this movie, and it's a cool story to see this Robert Ford character and how he grows. Like, he is obsessed with the idol of Jesse James, and then he meets Jesse James, and it's just you should never meet your heroes. It's this man realizing this man is the most crazy, unsettling, scary, harmful human being, and he's like, I wanted to once be this man, and now he's like, I need to take him out. And the title does spoil the movie, but you know that going into it that Robert Ford is the killer of Jesse James, and I think that they do a lot of interesting things after the fact of, hey, what happens to the man that kills a legend? Is he highly regarded, or is he looked at as being the next one to take down? Or is he just a coward? Because he shot a man that wasn't even looking at him. So I think that this film is stunning to look at. It is a long watch. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's from 2007. It was, I believe, nominated for Best Cinematography at that year's Oscars. Whether it won or not escapes me, but Roger Deakins has gone in interviews. Corey's shaking his head vigorously. It did not win that year, so sorry. But in interviews, Roger Deakins has said one of the most rewarding shots he's ever composed in film is the shot of a train approaching through the night, leading up into one of their heists, one of the Jesse James gang's heist. It's towards the beginning of the movie, and it is visually stunning. It's awesome to look at, but it's a great movie. It is a bit slow. It's a character piece Western. It's the thinking man's Western. You're going to spend time kind of contemplating the actions, and it took a while for me to really get in line and like in step with what the movie was trying to get me to feel, especially towards the end when you're living with Robert Ford for a lot of most of this movie, but especially the ending after the assassination has taken place. And it's just how he makes do with his life after taking out this Western legend, even though he was an outlaw and did horrible, unspeakable things, but he was still a legend of the West. So it's like, it's the duality of like, I did something that should be looked at as a good thing, but also people hate me for it. So it's a very interesting movie, and there's good things to kind of contemplate and think about. I don't know if I'd recommend it to everyone. There are specific people I'd probably recommend it to. Corey being one of them, because I don't think you've seen
I have not seen this, but it's always been on my list. It's always one that, like, I don't know, this is a weird like thing, but I watch a lot of like Blu-ray collection videos of people just going through their movies that they have, and this is always one that people have.
One of the first A's.
Yeah, one of the first ones that like I always see, and I've always been interested in it just from the cast and the concept. I love westerns, so
I believe so. I think Casey Affleck also got nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this film, and he's such a great actor. And my exposure to Casey Affleck, the first movie I ever saw him in was in this little comedy from I think 2011 called Tower Heist. Yes. That was the first movie I ever saw with Casey Affleck in it, and I was like, who the fuck's this guy? Oh, it's Ben Affleck's brother? Okay, fine. I love Tower Heist. That movie's underrated, I will say that. Really? Shut up! No, it's so much fun.
Kate Upton's in it, so that's cool.
Ben Stiller and fucking Eddie Murphy are in that movie, too.
They are. They sure are.
I hate you, dude. What the fuck?
No, you don't.
I know, but it's a good movie. Anyways, Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. it's worth your time, but know what you're getting into. And like I said, don't expect to shoot 'em out action scenes. It's very much a talk-heavy, contemplative Western, and I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, just to shout out a couple other Casey Affleck movies. Gone, Baby Gone. Great movie. Manchester by the Sea. Very sad, but great movie.
I thought you were just like, very sad.
Very sad. Very
Moving
sad.
on.
Yep, moving on. So that's all the movies we had for this week. But we had a pretty heavy TV week. Just a little check-in on Daredevil Born Again. We had episode 4 come out this week. Again, spoilers for this if you have not seen it yet. I like this episode a lot. I think it's really good. I think both episodes 3 and 4 have kind of settled into a groove of what I hoped this series would be. And I think the standout moments from this... well, first of all, Charlie Cox as Matthew Murdock has just insane riz with any woman that he comes across. Like, it is wild that in every season of the show, he's with, like, Rosario Dawson, he's with Elektra, he's with Karen Page.
Are you also talking about that woman that he, like, sways into, like, negotiating for the...
Like
for Leroy?
Yeah, like the clerk? The, like, courthouse or wherever it is. He's like, I bet you look beautiful today.
Yeah,
and
he's just going up to this baddie, just talking.
And then he's like dating the therapist, and I'm like, dude has absolute game. Like he's using
can't even see.
He's using the blind thing to a T. Like he's got it down.
Oh my god!
Even though he can kind of see, so it's like, whatever.
He's blind, but he can.
He's a little fuzzy, but he can see it.
Trying to explain that to Allie is the hardest thing because she'll like try to watch the episodes, but she'll be working on other stuff, and she's like, "Wait, so he can see?" I'm like, "No, he's blind." She's like, "But why can he do all these things?" I'm like, "Honey, just." He's a superhero, and he can kind of hear, and he has, like, echolocation almost.
It's like a red, fuzzy vision.
It's like a red, fuzzy, fiery vision from what they showed me in Netflix, so I don't know how to explain it to you, okay?
Yeah, you're trying to explain it, and it gets weird. But this episode I thought was really good. I think the scene with John Bernthal coming back as Punisher, like, it's been since, 2019 since we've seen John Bernthal. I know I like him a bit more than you do just in the role. I think John Bernthal is perfect as Frank Castle. Even though I didn't love the 2 seasons of The Punisher, I think he was obviously the standout in the show. And the conversation between him and Matt about Foggy's death and just like the scene or the line where he's like, Matt's like, the Bullseye got life. And Frank is like, how about Foggy? Did he get life?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a great line, and just getting Frank back, and you get little hints of, like, him talking about his family again, and it just really was like, man, we're back. Like, we got the boys back together, and I think just a very solid interaction between the two of them. You also get Wilson Fisk listening to 2 different groups of people singing, "We built this city."
That was awesome. When the kids are like readying up for a second song, he's like, no, that's enough. You did enough. That's great.
He's already stressed, going to like a Latvian Heritage Day or something, and then they're like, "We built this city." It's like, oh my god!
It's just a slow zoom on his face, so he's just like,
and then just a hard cut to him screaming at everybody in his office. I'm like, whoa, this is incredible.
Yeah.
But good episode though. I liked it.
I loved this episode, and I didn't initially while I was watching it. I was kind of getting like antsy. I'm like, I need an action scene. I need him to come back as Daredevil. Like, when are we going to see him in the suit again? I need Muse. Show me Muse. What's he doing? What's going on with him? Is he going to be a big threat for the rest of the season or not? And as I kind of like sunk in, I remember like watching like when he's working with, I think his name's Leroy, the man that stole the caramel corn and is potentially facing up to 30 days in prison for it and all that stuff. And I was like, what's going on here? Why is this important? Why are we focusing in on this? And that's when it kind of started to show its hand to me where I'm like, okay, this is about why Matt originally thought Daredevil was necessary. Because Daredevil is a correction for where the justice system fails. Even when the justice system gets things right, it somewhat is fucking it up. Like, hey, dude, you stole 3 bags of caramel corn. Yeah, you got 10 days. You just got 10 days in it, and you got probation after. And he's like, dude, I've been eating like shit because I can't afford food stamps because I missed a court date because like I just wanted something that tastes good. And it's like, yeah, you did just steal caramel corn. You're getting 10 fucking days. Like, it doesn't. It's right that he stole something and he's getting reprimanded for it, but like the penalty for it is way too big. And I think that a lot of this episode specifically was to show why Matt originally took up the Daredevil mantle to be a correction for when the justice system fucks up or sometimes botches it. And you get that amazing conversation that you referenced between John Bernthal as Punisher and Daredevil, which I love that Matt has always known where Frank Castle is staying. He's just like underground. He's like, all right, well, found this bullet. It's kind of got this engraving on it. Whatever. All right, I'm gonna go find Frank. Oh, hey, Frank. And they're just chatting. He's like, clearly, like, this is quite a nice spot you got. And they're just, like, shooting the shit. And, yeah, did Foggy get life? Like, that argument. And that is some of the best acting, I think, Charlie Cox has had as Matt Murdock, is that scene where he's just trying not to break. He's not saying anything, but he's just emoting and behind the glasses. And I think Charlie Cox is godsent, and he's fantastic in this role. I love him as Matt Murdock. I can't wait to finally see Frank Castle show up really as the Punisher and be like, all right, time to correct some fools who have been misrepresenting what I stand for. I can't wait for that comeuppance to eventually happen. I do love that tease of Muse as well.
It's great.
And I hope they just go as dark as his character is. I'm not going to pretend that I know a lot about Muse. I read like a one sheet on like the worst shit that this character has done in the comics. And I'm like, yes, do all of this.
Love the look of him, too.
He looks fucked up. And it's true to the comic look from what I've seen. And I want them to go dark as fuck with this character. Because I think, at least the handling of Bullseye so far this season, I'm like, that's like, all right, like, that's how he's going out. I hope we see something with him eventually down the line, especially with, like, what he did. Like, you put Foggy down. All right, I hope that there's a scene with Matt towards the end of the season where he's sitting in talking to the Bullseye, like, hey, like, getting some sort of penance, some sort
or
of...
even next season, too,
or next
if we
season.
get one.
I need something with him and Bullseye, but I'm happy with what we've gotten from Muse. The show is starting to really, like, escalate for me. I did really like episode 3. This so far is probably my favorite episode of the season so far, and I can't wait for next week, because I think we get 2 episodes next week. So we're going to have double the Daredevil to talk about, and hopefully some dark Muse shit, because I can't wait to see where that's going. I do love the Wilson Fisk stuff. The one thing that still is a glaring thing that I'm like, I could do without this stylistic choice, this storytelling choice of that BB report. Unless they find a way to tie that into something or make it more relevant towards the end, I could fully do without that. I also love the scene between... I forget Gandolfini, Michael Gandolfini, yep. Of him being like, I did it, I leaked it, I'm sorry. And he's like, I will vote for you, I will do whatever I can to support you, even if you want to fire me, even if I can't have this job, I am for you, I love what you're doing. And Wilson Fisk gets to see firsthand the one thing that's most important to him, which is loyalty, right as his wife is bending loyalty and cheating on him, and he's in therapy sessions trying to force himself to have acceptance and move on and being able to grow with Vanessa. And that scene where he's talking about, like, I learned a lot of my behavior from my dad, and forgiveness wasn't one of them. And I love that scene. There's some, like, this show and this episode specifically have been so well written. Sure, there's some story things that I haven't been, like, super happy with or haven't really jived with me, but this contained episode really worked for me. And when he is like, yeah, no, I'm not going to fire you. Don't do it again, though.
Yeah.
And I'm so sold on this season of Daredevil, and I think, you know what? They have what they need to make this a really solid season of Daredevil and to make it feel like it's not too much different. Nothing really has changed from Daredevil from when it was on Netflix. I hope we get more Foggy somewhat, or something to do with Foggy. I hope we get more Karen Page down the line. More Muse. I have, like... What I have to look forward to, I have a lot of hopes. I don't think that they're going to really upset me or disappoint me. I have some pretty decent expectations, and I think just with how well they've handled, especially these last 2 episodes, I think we're in good hands.
Yeah. I love Michael Gandolfini. He played the young version of Tony Soprano in The Many Saints of Newark, which was the prequel movie to The Sopranos. I love James Gandolfini so much. Like, I haven't seen too much of him outside of The Sopranos, but he is one of my favorite actors of all time just from that show alone.
In The Drop. Did you ever see The Drop?
I haven't. I know you like that movie.
He's awesome in that movie, too.
Yeah. But I love James Gandolfini, and I love that his son is getting into some roles now, kind of outside of, like, Sopranos and outside of his dad, just kind of carving his own path. So great to see. But I know you watched a little bit more of some MCU stuff.
Yeah.
Loki season 2. What'd you think?
It was awesome. It was a kind of a glaring hole because I loved the first season of Loki, and there's some Marvel Disney Plus stuff that I'm just I'm not gonna finish. I'm not gonna touch. Like Echo, I don't really care about.
Watch She-Hulk, you coward.
I've seen the Daredevil episodes or scenes of She-Hulk, and that's it. I saw like a hyper cut of that episode after watching episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again. I watched all the Daredevil scenes that I haven't seen, which was the scenes in Echo and the scenes in She-Hulk, and I'm like, yep, that's good. I don't need to watch those shows now. But Loki season 2, I knew I needed to watch it. I watched the first episode, I believe, last week, so I talked about it, and I was like, my one complaint is that I wish that season 1 and season 2 were just combined into one 12-episode season or one 10-episode season. We had this full season 1, season 2 arc within one season, because I think it'd be a really good contained story, because season 2 really just jumps in, gets going, continues the story from season 1, which is fine, but I'm like, I feel like this could have just been one big chunk of Loki story. I really enjoyed it. I watched, honestly, we finished recording last Sunday, and I went home. I watched the last 5 episodes of it, and it was a joy to watch. I love Ki-Hee Kwan. I love Rafael Casal. I love the new additions to the cast and the characters. I think that they sometimes don't get the best or most work to do, especially Rafael Casal, especially towards the end. You kind of lose that character a little bit. The sci-fi of this show, especially in the first season, I really loved. And this second season, I did really enjoy. It starts to get really, like, heady, like, really big, like, sci-fi. And some things that they try to do don't necessarily 100% sit well with me, or I don't even think I fully can wrap my head around. But in terms of what the plot requires me to understand, I can understand that much. So I haven't sat down and tried to like fully understand what happens in the last couple of episodes of Loki with like all the time shit and him glitching and trying to get all of the characters of the TVA from these separate timelines together so he can kind of create a specific event. I do love all the Jonathan Majors work in this season. I think that if Marvel is to fully wipe out the Kang storyline and not do any more Kang the Conqueror, I think this is like a good enough like send-off for that character, especially having Loki end up where he ends up. I feel like having him almost as like a watchful protector over the timeline, over everything. This is his glorious purpose. I feel like that makes sense that Kang doesn't really ever reappear. I'm excited to see if they tend to work Loki into like Secret Wars and Doomsday. I hope they will. I think they likely will. Like, how do you not address that somewhere? I love the repercussions that the show might have. I love the style of the TVA. Like, and you get a lot of this more in the first season of them just like going through the rooms and just the way everything looks. I love what they do with Miss Minutes in this show. Some of the episodes in season 2, I felt more so in season 1. I felt in season 2 some of the episodes kind of dragged. There's one where they're back in time with who is it? Victor Timely or
Victor Timely, yeah.
Timely. Victor Timely. There's an episode back in the past where they're really like Owen Wilson as Mobius and Tom Hiddleston as Loki are back in time trying to find him, track him down, figure out kind of what he does and who he is. And I think that episode had a lot of like elements to it where I'm like, I feel like we can kind of cut this for time. Overall, I really liked it. Big fan of the overarching story of the Loki Disney Plus show. It is one of my favorite things Marvel has put on Disney Plus. The first season I still do prefer to the season 2, just because I think season 1 is way more streamlined. Everything I completely get what the story is 100% of the time. I know where they're going and what they build to. And when you get to see He Who Remains, and the episode before that, when you get all the Lokis and you get when you get Richard E. Grant as one of the Lokis, I fucking love season 1 of Loki on Disney Plus. Season 2 is still though a very good, successful second season to the great show.
I think, this is clearly the best show of the MCU. That's on Disney Plus. I think. What would you say?
I think WandaVision. I rewatched all of WandaVision with my wife, and I think that is in contention. And one that I know you'll disagree with is Ms. Marvel. I really love Ms. Marvel. Yeah,
that's crazy. I'm not even going to get into that now. We'll probably do like a show.
We need to
ranking.
do like a Marvel specific episode where we just sit down and we talk about movies. Like even if we rank them or just
we'll do
shoot
a ranking
the shit about them, talk about the shows. Which I won't be able to talk about Hawkeye because I never finished. Echo I'll never watch. She-Hulk I'll skip for life.
Loki season 2 though I think is very good. I love just the journey of the show. There's I think a couple episodes stretch where Loki's just like going through time so much to get like the time loom, I think
Yeah,
it's called.
the time loom,
where they're
yep.
trying to like it's like branching out and they're trying to like contain it in, and he's just trying everything to like go through and learn all that he can to fix this, and he's just like, all right, well, gotta go back and try it again.
Yeah.
So it's just that's such a fun process of seeing that.
Mobius is like, again. Oh, it worked this time. Like he's
Yeah.
just like picking up on things that Loki's saying.
Yep.
And one final thing I want to say, a big thing that is a reason why I love Loki season 1 and season 2 so much is I never in the movies really loved Loki as a character. And I think that they always did Loki a disservice, especially in the first Avengers, by making him an outright villain. I understand it, but I think he's a character that is best represented on screen and is more compelling when he is you don't know where he's going. He can play both sides. So I didn't really... When his character ended in Infinity War, I'm like, that is the end of Loki. I don't need to see him anymore. And then Endgame kind of opened the window for him to come back. And I was like, I don't need this. But this show, through both seasons, proved to me that Loki is a viable character and he's worth having this show about. So that's a big, like, thumbs up, big, like... This is Mason Schmidt verified. Like, this is a good show. I will watch this because it made me interested in a character I thought had run its course. And not only that, it did things with the character that I was like, wow, I really didn't expect that. And to see that level of depth, especially from Tom Hiddleston, he is so perfect in this role. Like, he is, maybe aside from Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, I think Tom Hiddleston as Loki is maybe the best casting in the MCU.
It is perfect. There's a few lines in this season that I really remember just to kind of close out the Loki season 2 talk. Owen Wilson, I think, continues to be great as Mobius, and they're obviously jumping around time. They're seeing different versions of themselves throughout time, and there's
His
a version
obsession with the jet skis is fucking
yeah,
awesome.
it's great. And he's looking at one point kind of a version of himself, and he's like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna sit here for a while and just enjoy this moment of like seeing what my life is in a different universe in a parallel, type of thing. It's just a really beautiful moment. And then, honestly, one of my favorite lines in the MCU is kind of a callback to the first Thor movie when like Loki's falling off the Bifrost Bridge, and he's talking to Odin, and he's like, "I did it for you, for all of us." And that line comes back in Loki season 2 in such a different meaning. It's the same line where Loki's going out to try and fix this time loom, and he says, I did it for you, for all of us. And it takes on such a different meaning, but it's such a great way of taking this character that is just kind of this sleazy little asshole in the first Thor movie. That's like this Shakespearean drama.
Yeah.
And then you tie it into the end of this Loki show where you get to love this character and you understand him so much. And really, like, starting with season 1, it's of post-Avengers Loki, so he hasn't had the Ragnarok and the Infinity War. So it just, like, that line coming back and just really that idea of branching out this character, I think was done so well. And I really, really dig the show, and I'm excited to see if he does come back in some of the Avengers movies. I'm sure he will. If he doesn't, I think it would be cool as well.
I feel like it'd be a missed opportunity to not have him back. And they have to for, like, just story reasons. I'm like, how do you not address Loki now?
Yeah. He's it's a great show. It's again, like you said, visually very cool. I like the retro just vibe of the TV. It's awesome. But yeah, so getting into a couple shows that I finished up this week. I finished watching Succession finally. I know I've been every few weeks talking about finishing another season. Finished season 4. This is one of the best shows I've ever seen. It's probably in my top 5 or 6 favorite shows of all time. Along with like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Game of Thrones, The Sopranos. This show, Lost, is in there. It's a very, very important show for me. And then Succession is in there as well. This show, I love that it's 4 seasons because they had a story to tell. And they told it. It's about this family trying to figure out the succession of this media conglomerate that just is in news, is in movies and film. It's really spanning across the globe. And the show won 19 Emmys in 4 seasons, which is like a crazy ratio. For like, you see shows winning like 20 Emmys for like 10 seasons.
Yeah.
But this show is just every year in the Emmys. It's like, Succession's winning. Yeah. It won 3 times for Best Drama Series. for the last 3 seasons. Jeremy Strong, Sarah Snook, Kieran Culkin all won. Matthew McFadden won twice for supporting actor in the show. Brian Cox never won, but he is incredible as Logan Roy.
And he's the patriarch too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the dad of the family. Waystar Royco is the company, and I've been sitting with the finale for the last few days, and it has really just hit me. I don't want to spoil too much, I guess, but just where the characters end up and the things that the characters are doing in the final shots of the finale are so perfect for how their characters are represented, because you see these characters are all kind of awful people, trying to further their own agenda of wanting to take control of the company or their own personal things. But you get moments of humanity throughout the show. It's just brief, very brief moments. But then you see them all come back in the finale, and it's done so brilliantly. Alexander Skarsgård is in the last couple seasons, and he's great as this guy that wants to come in and buy the company, and it's this whole dispute that they have. So it's one of the best shows that I've seen, and honestly, it's better than a lot of the movies that I've seen in the past decade, just as far as the story that it's telling. It's so impressive what Jesse Armstrong, the showrunner, did. The writing, there's a couple episodes here where, you get Connor's wedding. Anybody that's seen the show knows that episode and just how fucking powerful that is. And I was tearing up, just crying at that episode. And then there's a funeral that happens in the show, and there's a moment with Kieran Culkin that I'm that is your Emmy scene. That is your clip. It's incredible. So I love Succession. I'm so glad I finally went through and watched it. But in addition to Succession,
before we move off of Succession, I'm not the biggest TV guy. Succession is one where I've seen a couple episodes and just the style of it, I don't know if I could jive with it. Maybe I'll go back to it, but we'll talk about a show in a couple seconds that you'll talk mostly about that I'm really interested in actually starting, hopefully soon. But with Succession, one of my favorite shows of all time, as is yours, as you mentioned, is Breaking Bad. I feel maybe one episode that people look to as being a low point. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Fly episode?
Yeah, which we both love.
I love that episode.
Yeah, it's great.
But everyone kind
of
episode. Yeah, everyone kind of singles out that episode. With Succession, it being set out to be 4 seasons and it being 4 seasons, it being so it tells the story it set out to tell. Are there any episodes that are kind of looked at as being a weak point within these 4 seasons?
At least for me, I was very late to the train on Succession, so I don't know what the Succession fandom feels, but there's never a flashback episode or
it's all building.
Yeah, it's building. The tension is there. The dynamics between the characters. Sarah Snook and Matthew McFadden play a couple in the movie, Shiv and Tom, and they have their dynamic throughout all 4 seasons is incredible. They have an argument scene on a terrace in season 4 that's happening at a party. Everybody's chatting inside, and their argument is one of the most real arguments I've ever heard written, from a person that has divorced parents and heard them argue. Hearing them argue, I was tearing up. I was this is so genuine to me, just because of this is things that I've heard, and other people in this situation have heard, just of their parents going through this, and it's heartbreaking. So it really, there is no low points to me. It just keeps building. It's an incredible show, and I think this is one that if you're looking to start a new show, there's so many that are 8 to 10 seasons, and it's it's just so much to get into. Succession is 4 seasons. There's 10 episodes a season, except for season 3, which is 9 episodes. And I it cruised by for me, even though it took me a while to get through it. It is more of a heavier show, so it just kind of took me a bit. But I can't recommend this show enough. I think it really is if you're saying the best drama series and you're just saying that phrase, Succession of the past decade is incredible. Another one that is very hot right now, very popular, is Severance. It's a show that I binged through the first season and was oh fuck, this is one of the most original things I've ever seen. Season 2 just wrapped up. I don't want to spoil anything because I know you are planning to watch it with Allie.
Yeah,
so
this is the next one on the docket.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into this one too much of spoiling things. All I'll say is that Season 2 lived up to the hype of Season 1. Ben Stiller as the director and Dan Erickson as the showrunner. The writing they're doing is incredible. The finale of Season 2 is one of the best episodes of television I've ever watched in my life. And there's, obviously the basis of the show, if you don't know, is like people have their outside person and then they go to work and they have their innie. So it's their innie and their outie. And they're two separate personalities that they don't remember. There's a scene in the finale where Adam Scott, who plays Mark, he is having a conversation with himself through a camera. So he'll have the camera record himself, walk through a door, change personalities, talk to himself, and it just keeps going back and forth for 15 minutes as he's trying to his outie is trying to convince his innie to do something. And it is one of the most brilliant pieces of writing I've ever seen. And it's just Adam Scott giving a masterclass of acting and then writing. Ben Stiller directed the fuck out of this episode. It leaves at such a place where I loved it. And it's just one of the most original things I've ever seen. And I think they have done such a great job of setting up things, but answering enough things to keep you okay, we're getting some conclusion to some things, but there's also things that we're what the fuck's going on here? Setting up the next season, tying off some loose ends here. It's incredible. I love this show so much. The aesthetic of the show is so cool. And so many behind the scenes things of how they film the show and different lenses that they use is really interesting too.
I watched the Corridor Crew where they broke down, I think mostly the opening of the first episode where he's just running, bitches zooming, Adam Scott just zipping through hallways, and just the visual effects of how did they fucking handle that. And it was so interesting, especially as someone I haven't seen the show. I have no idea what the fuck the importance of that opening really is. I'm really excited to get to the point that you're talking about because I know the concept, and one of my coworkers really loves the show, and it has harped on me you need to see it. And I just think the idea of that innie outie that being explored is really interesting. I don't know how that kind of grows over seasons 1 and 2 and how it kind of alters or if what the story kind of represents itself later on. I can't wait to sit down and actually watch it. It's the one that my wife and I are both ready to watch. But everything I've seen is just damn, people need to take Ben Stiller in terms of his creative work. Everyone knows Ben Stiller for his comedy, for Night at the Museum, or he's Zoolander and the Blue Steel shit, or Meet the Parents. He's funny, but him as a creative in terms of directing, his work in this Severance and also Cable Guy or Secret Life of Walter Mitty, this man can make awesome shit. So honestly, his name being attached to this, him being as a prime creative of the show and directing that final episode, and I'm sure he's probably directed more episodes within these first 2 seasons, that's got to be the biggest vote of confidence for anyone looking from outside looking into this show, because Ben Stiller is one of the most capable, inventive, hilarious, but also dark storytellers that we have going right now. So I'm really excited to eventually sit down and watch Severance. I'm happy that season 2, from the sounds of it, has been everything that you want it to be. Could you kind of rank between the two of them, which one you like better, the season 1 or season 2 of Severance?
I think the surprise of season 1 will probably always be first, just because it's getting into this concept was so cool. But season 2, just as I've sat with it more, it does so many brilliant things with the characters. I can't wait until you watch it just to have a deep conversation about it, because there's so much about that innie outie conversation that is so interesting and so you wouldn't think that it would be a plot point, but it is for some characters. Zach Cherry's character is Dylan. He has stuff with his wife that comes into it that's really cool. So we will have a full breakdown. I'm gonna if I could implore you to watch any one thing, movie or show, this would be it right now, just because I want to talk with you about it. So I'm gonna force this and keep asking you.
Are you saying that for anyone listening or for me specifically?
For you specifically.
Oh, okay.
Just because we recommend each other all the time with movies and shows. We're oh, you should watch this. It's good. This is something you need to watch, just because I need to talk with you about this show.
Okay.
It's truly a water cooler show in the best possible way.
Yeah. fucking high praises that you're giving to Severance, with also after high praises for Succession. So I think you've kind of lined up my next TV show plan, I guess, which is really hard because we're going into April, which we'll have Last of Us season 2 going out, Andor, which both of those shows will be like Daredevil Born Again for me now is like the one show I watch week by week when it releases. I don't typically do that. Last of Us, I did that, and Andor, the first season, I waited, and then I watched, like, I think the first 4 episodes, and I watched the last couple of them as they came out. Or, actually, Andor is a long fucking first season, so however many, and I waited until it got a decent amount of them out onto, like, Disney Plus, and I watched through a bunch of them, and then waited and watched the finale with everyone else. That's not going to happen with Andor. It's not going to happen with Last of Us Season 2. I'm going to be watching those week to week. Same with Daredevil Born Again. We have a big month of TV coming up. And to add Severance likely into that conversation, I'm going to be busy watching TV, which I'm typically not a TV person. If I have free time in my evenings, I want to watch a movie because it's a concise story that I can get enjoyment out of. But fuck, that is a hard sell you just gave for Severance that I definitely need to check that out. And it honestly, kind of looking ahead at this week of new releases, there's one that I'm really excited about and will likely be rushing out to go see. There's other 2 that I'm like, I don't know if I need to see them. So maybe with the new releases coming out on March 28th, that will grant me some leeway, some freedom to kind of catch up on some TV that sounds like I'm desperately missing. But one of those major releases coming out this upcoming Friday is the surprisingly massively marketed film Death of a Unicorn. I only say that just because I've seen this trailer 40 fucking times. Directed by Alex Sharfman, who I do not know, have no familiarity with. The film stars everyone. Jenna Ortega, Paul Rudd, Will Poulter, Richard E. Grant to mostly round out the main leading cast. The synopsis is, if you have not seen the trailer, father-daughter duo? I'm gonna say Elliot.
I typed that wrong.
Me. Fuck you. That's a typo on you. It's usually a typo on me. This is good.
Hold on, let me fix it.
Oh yeah, I'll watch you type it.
Nice.
Father and daughter duo Elliot and Ridley
killed that.
Hit a unicorn with their car and bring it to the wilderness retreat of a mega wealthy pharmaceutical CEO. Everyone, I feel like, has to have seen this trailer by now, or one of the trailers, or some of the marketing for this movie, just because it's such an interesting concept. And I am so sold on this movie, mostly just based off of Will Poulter. You and I talked about this before the recording of this. Just Will Poulter's reactions to some of the lines in the trailers, I'm sold on. Wow, the unicorn horn cures cancer. That's the biggest one. Like, Will Poulter just being excited by shit. Like, I'm interested in this movie. It looks like a knockoff of, like, Jurassic. Like, there's Jurassic Park elements. There's alien elements to this. But also, I'm like, how are you going to handle a unicorn? Also, it's an A24 film, so I'm interested to see what kind of weird shit they kind of throw into it. Corey, where is your anticipation for Death of a Unicorn?
This is the one of this release week I'm most excited for.
Yeah.
Any A24 stuff, like, we're typically pretty excited for. We're film snobs to a certain degree, so it looks fun. If that one doesn't pique your interest, we've also got The Woman in the Yard, directed by Wame Colette-Serra, who, very, like, underrated director. Hopped in a lot of different genres with The Shallows, Black Adam, Nonstop, Orphan, Carry On, I believe he directed from last year. Yep. So, like, a lot of action movies, horror.
Honestly, all those movies I at least like. Like, even Black Adam, which of those movies is probably his worst movie. I still at least, like, I had a good time with Black Adam.
Yeah,
and I think The Shallows is very underrated.
Shallows is the best shark movie since Jaws, and I will
100%.
always stand by that.
100%.
So I think he's actually a very good director for what he's going for in his movies. It stars Daniel Deadwyler, and it's about a mysterious woman who appears in a family's front yard, often delivering chilling warnings and unsettling messages. She's sitting in a chair, just in like a rocking chair, in their front yard in the trailers. So, I actually don't know that much about this movie, but I've seen the trailer a couple times, and it looks like a horror movie. I'm not, like, as curious about this one. If I hear good things, I may catch it on streaming at some point, but not when I'm going to the theater, like, first week to see.
Yeah. If I hear good things, I will rush out to see this, because I do think Wame Colette-Serra has made, like, enjoyable enough movies for that I'd be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll go see this movie in theaters. I remember seeing Nonstop in theaters and having a blast with that fucking movie. That movie is so underrated for just a Liam Neeson action movie. And also Danielle Deadwyler. I would love to see her in this movie. I don't, like... watching the trailer, I could see this going either way of it being really bad and not scary, or I could see this being like a relatively good under-the-radar horror film. So I'm somewhat interested. I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be dependent on kind of what those first like reactions I start to hear. Is it going to build anticipation for me, or am I like, yeah, I'll just catch it whenever it comes out? Because I think at some point I will eventually end up watching it, as I feel like I've seen almost every Wame Colette Sarah movie. It just, at some point, I'm like, yeah, might as well. I've heard about it. Aside from that, I don't want to like bury the lead. This isn't the one I'm the most excited for, but this movie's gonna have an audience. It's got it. A Working Man, directed by David Ayer, who's made maybe one good film in his life. The director of The Beekeeper, which I never saw, but feels like it could be a spiritual successor or prequel to this potential fucking dog shit fest. Director of Suicide Squad, which I have some nostalgia
Not the good
for.
one.
Not the good Suicide Squad. Some nostalgia for that shitty, really punk rock Bohemian Rhapsody fueled Suicide Squad with weird.
The trailer
Jared
was
Leto.
cool.
Yeah, because the fucking editing of that trailer is great, and then they're like, let's just have that same trailer company cut the fucking movie and just make a dog shit, incomprehensible bullshit. Oh my god. Oh, actually, wait, no, he's got two good movies, because Fury is on this list as well. I love Fury. That is an underrated tank movie. Directed Sabotage, did not watch, didn't care. End of watch. Awesome fucking movie.
You never seen Sabotage with Arnold?
Was I supposed to?
That's crazy.
Are you going to get mad at me for not seeing a David Ayer movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger
I
on
don't
it?
know. That movie's kind of cool. There's a lot of shit that blows up. I thought you'd seen this movie with your mom or something.
No, this does feel like a movie I'd go see with Terry Lynn.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Sabotage, I just skipped entirely. Even though I think Joe Manganiello is in it also.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
It's a good time.
Maybe it's like an Expendables light. I can't say Expendables. Which
Yeah.
Expendables is
Whiskey's
awesome.
hitting you there, bud.
Whiskey has hit me. It's gone. End of watching Fury. Anyways, we're not even talking about A Working Man anymore. The film stars Jason Statham and Jason Fleming.
Jason Statham.
Jason
Fleming also spells his last name fucking stupid.
Horrible.
With
Why
a
put a
Y,
Y
N,
in
and
there?
G in there?
Correct it.
Come on now.
Correct it. Anyways, synopsis. Levin Cade left his profession behind to work construction and be a good dad to his daughter. But when a local girl vanishes, he's asked to return to the skills that made him a mythic figure in the shadowy world of counterterrorism. Okay, so physical media roundup. No, a Working Man, like, I don't care about, like, it's just, this trailer plays to me the way the Beekeeper trailer plays to me when it came out last year, whatever the fuck. It's just, like, kind of laughable, and I'm happy that David Ayer just has, like, this bromance with Jason Statham and is like, I'm gonna just make a lot of subpar action movies and put you in them. If people like this, go see it. Because regardless of, if this isn't my cup of tea, I don't care. I'm probably not gonna go see this movie. If this is somewhat something you're interested in, go buy a ticket to this, please. Because between these three movies that are coming out this week, we got somewhat of a diverse pool. We got a horror film, we got this like niche, weird A24, could be fun, creature feature, and then you got this shoot 'em up action movie with Jason Statham. We got an interesting lot here. So regardless of what you're excited to see, if you're excited to see any of these three movies, you know what you need to do? Go to the theater and fucking support it. Go put your money on the line. Go show, hey, I'm willing to watch a movie in theater instead of just on streaming. I think I didn't see a movie this past week in theaters, and that's kind of, it feels weird to me. It feels like I kind of cheated the system. Like, I need to go to the theater. I need to go see something. I'm definitely going to see Death of a Unicorn. Fuck it. Maybe I'll see Woman in the Yard. I probably won't see A Working Man, but I hope that movie has an audience and that someone supports it, because if people were willing to support The Beekeeper, come on.
I've seen the trailer for A Working Man a lot.
Yeah.
But again, kind of like I said with Novocaine earlier, like if you've seen the trailer and you're interested, you're probably gonna like the movie. Yeah. And this feels like a very much like a movie I'd catch on Redbox.
Yeah, it
back
does.
in the day,
It does.
or like on streaming.
It feels like the fucking Jason Statham Homefront. Like with James Franco in it.
Resurrection.
What's
the one with J-Lo?
I was just saying
Parker.
Parker. Holy shit.
I watched that on Netflix.
Parker.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
That is a Redbox movie to a
Jason
T.
Statham has really just settled into like, I'm gonna do an action movie, same sort of character, pump him out.
Just
like
a
once
quiet badass that shows up, which I love his
Jason
Transporter
Statham.
movies. Yeah, Jason Statham.
He's great in Fate of the Furious. So
He's amazing. He's amazing in Expendables 2.
Also amazing in Spy, playing a parody version.
Perfect in Spy. Actually,
Yeah.
that might be his best performance ever. Is
I think the
in
movie's
Spy.
great.
That movie is so underrated.
Anyways.
Yeah, now we'll actually move into physical media roundup. This past week, with kind of finally seeing John Bernthal back as Punisher, it made me think back to my favorite Punisher that we've ever been able to see in Film, TV, which is Ray Stevenson, the late great Ray Stevenson. I love Punisher Warzone so much. I have so much nostalgia for that movie. My uncle rented it on, like, in 2009 when it came out on DVD and showed it to me. And definitely watching that movie, like, it's a very hard R-rated movie, and my uncle's like, don't tell your mom that we're watching this. I'm like, oh, I'm not. Like, the dude's getting fully exploded by a heat-seeking missile. I'm not telling anyone that is going to have an issue with this movie that I saw this movie. This movie's awesome. So I ordered that on Blu-ray and a Blu-ray 4K. I love the Bad Boys movies, the Will Smith, Martin Lawrence films. I love the look of them. I love the style. They're fun, good, like, cop duo action movies. I only love the first 3. I didn't care much for, Ride or Die, the most recent one. So I bought the Bad Boys collection on Blu-ray, but it's only the first 3. I was like, I can skip Ride or Die. I love Bad Boys for Life. I think that's such a fun movie. Bad Boys 2 is underrated and weird, and I think Bad Boys 1 is just, again, another quintessential 1990s movie that I really enjoy. And then, talking about Ben Stiller, again, he's such an interesting creative in terms of directing, writing. I love what he does. I love Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I'm excited to eventually watch Severance. I love his movie, The Cable Guy. Jim Carrey in one of his most unhinged, weird, scary, uncomfortable, fun roles. I love The Cable Guy. I finally ordered that on Blu-ray. I actually did that like minutes before we started recording just because we started talking about Ben Stiller. And I'm like, fuck, I love him. I need to buy a movie from him. So I quickly put it in order to good old Papa Jeff Bezos to send me that little Blu-ray, hopefully in good condition, through this shitty little white envelopes so I can have that added to my collection.
Yeah, I need to buy the Bad Boys movies. I actually really enjoy all 4 in a weird, separate way. I think, for me, the last 2 are actually the best 2. But the first 2 are more nostalgic in a weird way, so it's a very interesting thing.
I feel like the first 2 are so quintessential MTV movies.
Michael Bay,
yeah,
like 90s, early 2000s, it's great. And then the last 2 have kind of been a lot of more like energy, or a different energy to them. Which
more
is
modernized.
Yeah. But yeah, I did not pick up anything this week, but we do actually have a decent little release week.
This is a banger.
We've got The Brutalist coming out on A24. I don't know what these releases are called, but they have like a barcode on their side of them.
Yeah, or specialty releases.
Yeah, but we got Brutalist on 4K and Blu-ray. We also got Babygirl on 4K, which is Mason's favorite movie of last year.
Didn't watch. Don't think I'll ever watch.
But I've heard some people like it.
Literally some. Like, not a lot. Everyone, I think, like, critics, I think, widely liked it, but everyone I've heard that saw it was like, I fucking hated that.
Yeah. So, got some awards buzz for a second, and then kind of
I wouldn't be surprised if I watched it, I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, like, at this point, I'm just like, maybe see it if somebody else wanted to watch it. And then we've got a couple of Chris Farley vehicles, Tomboy Boy and Black Sheep, which I love both of those movies, coming out on 4K.
Classics.
And then we've got one of our favorite, like, just surprise movies, Night of the Creeps, coming out on 4K. I think it's like a Kino Lorber coming out. But this is a movie that you had bought a while back, I think like a couple Halloweens ago maybe.
I think it was the Joe Blow Horror Channel randomly talked about it around Halloween, so I was like, fuck it, I'll buy it on Blu-ray and we'll watch it.
And we watched it, and we had so much fun with it. It's such a fun little creature feature, like, just genuinely funny moments that we both love.
Schlocky bullshit.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So, actually some decent stuff this week coming out. If you haven't seen The Brutalist, also, just check it out. We know it's long. We get it. Break it up into a couple parts if you need to. Yeah. But very good movie.
It's worth your time.
Post-Oscars, like, this is one that you should definitely check out.
Yeah, Brutalist was definitely one of the front runners for Best Picture, and I think even if it didn't win, it's still worth your time. I feel like that's the thing that kind of gets lost in the shuffle of, like, what else got nominated that year? Like, yeah, this won Best Picture, but what else came out that year? What else was big? So, Brutalist, definitely don't lose that one. Night of the Creeps, if you've never heard of it, look into it. Maybe try and watch it. It's a very brisk movie. It's wild. There is a thing that me and Corey think is just the funniest thing that is in the background of one of the scenes, and one of the characters is in a stall, and on the stall it's written Humpty Dumpty was pushed. And every time any one of us brings it up, we die laughing. And when we noticed it, it was just cathartic. It was just an explosion.
I think we paused the movie and laughed.
Yeah.
It's like, we were just like, we need a minute to process the layers of this joke.
It was very Beau is Afraid, wild, out there humor. And
Yeah.
Night of the Creeps is such a wild, weird,
Fun
fun
time.
Halloween-esque movie.
Yeah.
So if you're come October, if you're like I have an itch, I need to watch a Halloween movie or a spooky movie I've never seen. Night of the Creeps is definitely that. It's such a weird movie, so definitely check it out. Maybe pick it up on 4K. I might. I have a Blu-ray copy, but fuck it, I'll upgrade. Regardless, in terms of movie news, weirdly enough, we already have our Oscars host for the 98th Academy Awards, which it's pretty weird to get this announcement so early on in the year. I feel like typically it's like come September, we're like, all right, well, who the fuck's gonna host it? Oh, you guys asked a lot of people and they all said no? Oh, why's that? Oh, because you don't want a lot of people digging back through their past, like,
Whoa.
Past titter.
Holy shit.
Whiskey's really doing a number on my
that's
tongue.
crazy right now.
You don't want a bunch of people digging back to their Twitter to find, like, weird jokes that didn't land in their time and now they're canceled. Regardless, Conan O'Brien hosted it for the 97th Academy Awards, and the Academy apparently loved him so much that they're going to bring him back for the 98th, which I don't typically have an issue with. I actually really enjoy Conan O'Brien as a late-night host. I think he has really interesting kind of humor tendencies and comedic timing. Again, I think that this is a show that has proven that it works better without a host. With them going back to Conan O'Brien, I feel like there's only room for like improvement. Not that he did a horrible job. I think he was like serviceable and fine, and I enjoyed him for the most part. I think that there's nowhere to go but up. I think with Jimmy Kimmel, he hosted 3 or 4 Academy Awards, and I think every time he kind of progressively felt it out, got a better groove, more rhythm. He knew what to say, what not to waste time on. And I think he improved while he was hosting each time he did it. So I think, you know what, I'm sold. I'm okay with Conan hosting again this upcoming Oscars. Upcoming as in fucking, a year from now. But you know what, I'm excited for it. I'm happy that they got that shit locked down now so we don't have to go through the speculation of it. Yeah.
You guys, I mean, if anybody listened to our Oscars reaction thing, I don't like Conan. I don't think he's funny. I don't think he did a good job hosting. I don't think his jokes are funny. So you can probably tell how I think about this.
You're thrilled.
Not a fan. Don't do a host. I think we can just do presenters, and that would be great because the show is about the people winning the awards and not the host and their dumb bits that they're doing that take up time.
Not
and I don't
wasting
care.
time.
I don't care if you're doing a bit about wasting time and being like, oh yeah, we are wasting time. No, you are just wasting time when you're dumb and you're not funny. So I'm not going to get into that bit again because I already screamed about it a while back. Get your fucking Widow's Peak dumbass back to your not hosting a late night show because you're not good at being funny. Anyways, back to some other movie news.
Sorry, Conan. I like you a lot.
We had a couple we had a couple trailers this week. One for The Materialists, which is Celine Song's follow-up to Past Lives, which is one of my favorite movies of this decade. Kind of referencing that again. Stars Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, Pedro Pascal. Kind of a love triangle going on in this movie. I think Past Lives is a brilliant movie, so I'm just very curious to see what she's doing. Next. I think that it's very interesting. The trailer didn't do anything crazy for me, but I think it looks cool. And then we also got a trailer for Happy Gilmore 2, which I will confess I don't know that I've seen all of Happy Gilmore all the way through. I am not crazy about Adam Sandler comedy. I think his dramatic roles are really good. I love Uncut Gems, Punch Drunk Love. I don't love that movie, but I think Adam Sandler's good in it.
That's my favorite PTA movie.
Okay. And I also think that Funny People, the Judd Apatow movie, is very underrated, and Adam Sandler's very good in that movie, not always in a funny role. I think he's actually very good dramatically in that movie. So this is a movie that I will watch, and I will rewatch Happy Gilmore before it comes out. I've just never dug Adam Sandler's comedy, so this trailer, it didn't do much for me because it just had jokes that I didn't think were that funny, but it's a couple of trailers that we wanted to mention this week. Excited for one, and the other one I'm curious about.
Yeah, I didn't watch the Materialist trailer, but I'm a big fan of Celine Song. Past Lives is such a awesomely nuanced and very relatable film, I feel like, for almost everyone, and it's so well done. I didn't feel the need to watch this trailer. Not that I'm not excited. I am excited for this movie. The aesthetic of it, the cast of it. I love Pedro Pascal. Put him in literally everything, except maybe not as Reed Richards. I'm not sold on that quite yet.
I'm excited for
it, but I'm like, I feel like there's better choices. Penn Badgley could have been Reed Richards. I don't know. There's
Nick
options.
Nolte.
Nick Nolte. That is okay. That's something that we've never addressed on this. We have a running gag, at least when we used to live with each other. I don't know how it started. I think I just yelled, "I'm Nick Nolte."
I think it was like Mandalorian talk, maybe.
Maybe because he was like that weird fucking alien.
Kuil.
Yeah, Kuil.
Yeah.
And I think I just randomly went on a rant about being Nick Nolte, and I just said and spewed a bunch of random weird bullshit. So now that was just like, we'll just randomly...
Kind of like a warrior Mandalorian thing where we're like, Nick Nolte should be in everything.
Yeah. Anyways, Pedro Pascal should be in everything. Nick Nolte maybe shouldn't, just because I think he might assault someone. Materialists, I'm excited for. The trailer I didn't watch. I don't think I want to watch it ever. I'm sure I'll see it eventually in theaters. I love the cast. I'm excited to see it. I know it's like kind of more, from the sounds of it, more of a straightforward love triangle movie, but like I kind of want that. I kind of want just a good romance movie. I feel like we don't really get those in theaters a whole lot. If A24 is going to give it to us, if Celine Song is going to give it to us, I don't care. I'm excited to see it. Actually, if Celine Song is giving it to us, I'm excited. I'm like, I want that. I want Celine Song to make everything after Past Lives. Happy Gilmore too. I like Happy Gilmore. I was raised off of Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. Again, like Corey, I don't love... I almost said Billy Madison. I don't love Adam Sandler in his comedic roles, but yeah, I think he's a very capable actor. I will definitely end up seeing this just because I do have a lot of nostalgia for the first film. Even though this does feel just like so easily made for Netflix, like it just feels like a Netflix original in the worst of ways, maybe. I don't think the humor is necessarily going to work for me, but I'm still like, I don't know, I'm not like eagerly awaiting it, but I'm excited to sit down and watch it when it's eventually out. Did you ever watch Hustle, the Adam Sandler movie? 'Cause I never did.
It's a great movie. I'm a huge basketball fan. And that's, actually I forgot to mention that because he's really, really good in that movie.
That's more of like a serious performance from him, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a great mix of what Adam Sandler can be where like, it's not like a full drama. It's like him being this kind of mentor for this basketball player. Anthony Edwards is in it. Shout out to Anthony Edwards, the dog, our wolves.
What's up with him with working with like basketball players that actually end up giving good performances? Like you got
KG?
You got KG, and now you got Gems actually being like really good.
Hustle, very good movie. It's on Netflix. Check it out. It's actually a really solid movie.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to actually watch that before Happy Gilmore 2 to prep for Adam Sandler, even though I'll likely out of those two movies prefer Hustle from the sounds of it. In other news, Pixar, they have a new trailer out for Elio, which a movie I'm not like terribly sold on, but the trailer I found like some enjoyment of. It's like the typical Pixar brightness. The monsters kind of look cute and cuddly, even though they're supposed to be like these alien monsters. I'm interested enough, but I don't know. Similar to like Elemental, like I'm like, all right, I like the concept enough. I might see this in theaters. I'm not sold on it. Pixar used to, at least for me, really just like the name. You say Pixar, I'm going. But like, I don't know. Just I've kind of lost the luster for it. It might be because I'm going to be 25 now. Like maybe I've grown out of it. But I know that there's Disney adults and there's people that love Pixar movies and there's Pixar movies that really work for me where it doesn't work for other people. Like Onward. Fucking love that movie. I think that movie's perfect. And I know a lot of people don't. But I don't know. Pixar movies haven't become like the event film for me in theaters. Maybe I'll go see Elio. Who knows? But another Pixar movie that I actually did was pleasantly surprised by was Coco. We do have an announcement that Pixar is now in the works on a sequel to Coco, which I don't know if I necessarily needed, but I'm sure I will eventually see it at some point. Not eagerly awaiting it, but it's Pixar, so the odds of it being good are likely high. Corey, where are you at with Elio and Pixar, or in Pixar's announcement of Coco 2?
Yeah, Pixar struggled a little bit with like original concepts lately, like Elemental. Turning Red was kind of a weird like COVID-y type thing.
Do you like Turning Red?
I do. I actually do like that movie. I think it's good.
I fucking love Turning Red.
I think it's good. It's not like a top tier thing for me, but I think it's pretty good.
It's hard to get to the top tier, especially like after what we like. I'm nostalgic for a lot of the ones that I put in my top tier, so it's hard to like for anything to break into that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So I think Elio looks fun. I haven't seen this new trailer, but like the first trailer they put out, I think is cool. I love the first Coco. I think it's great. The end song between Coco, just with the Miguel, I think is the main character, and his grandmother at the end of the movie. That is like I remember like my mom and I watching that movie and just like both getting very like emotional and very good. I don't think it needs a sequel, but we'll see. I don't know. I guess I didn't think Toy Story 3 needed another movie, and then we got Toy Story 4. So we'll see what Pixar does.
Yeah.
I think they know what they're doing for the most part, so I'm curious to see both of them.
Yeah. In terms of sequels, another sequel that we were supposedly expecting to get this later on this year, I think September this year, is Saw 11, but potentially it's canceled, according to some of the producers, as there's some fights between producers that could move the studio towards more of a new reboot instead of continuing on with Saw 11. Some producers were like, we need to X-nay this, we need to stop, halt in the tracks, and some are like, no, like, keep going, we're going to push it out. So apparently there's some infighting among producers. They don't like what's happening. They can't agree. That's interesting, considering that Saw X, I think, is actually my favorite of all of the Saw movies, even including James Wan's original. Oh. I love Socks. Socks is solid as shit. So I was like, after seeing Saw 10, Saw X, Socks, I was really excited for, all right, maybe I can get back into this universe, because like some of them got a little bit repetitive. It's just kind of torture porn to a degree. But Saw X, I was like, fuck, this is a good story at least. So I was excited to see where they're going. But maybe that's not going to fucking actually see the light of day.
Yeah, we'll see. Right now it's under Lionsgate's, under their control. I have a feeling that this could go to like Blumhouse or something. That just feels like a very natural. And then they'd reboot Saw, do the thing, take their
reboot,
do a reboot, whatever.
Let's call it Saw 2027.
Yeah, something like that. I love the first Saw. That is my favorite. Saw 2, I think, is underrated.
Very underrated.
Hell, I think the movie's so good.
The first 3 Saw films are all very
first 3
solid.
are
It's
good.
a good solid trilogy, those first 3.
First 3 are good. Saw 6, also very underrated.
Is that the trap with like the merry-go-round? Or not like the merry-go-round, but it's like there's a... It doesn't matter.
It's hard to like.
It's hard to really separate the movies between the traps and the between the movies.
The first 3, Saw 6, and then I like Socks a lot. I think that's a pretty fun movie. So it'll be interesting to see where this kind of goes in the next couple of years. But another couple movies, we got some like release date shifts. Warner Brothers moved the release of Paul Thomas Anderson's new movie One Battle After Another from August 8th to September 26th. So not like a huge involved or like move, but like more into a award season type of thing. So Leo DiCaprio stars in the movie. We got a first trailer. It's really just a teaser, but I enjoy the teaser, and I'm not like the biggest PTA fan. I think he's got a lot of movies I respect, but I don't love. So I think it's that pairing is really interesting, though. So I'm excited to see that. And then also as part of that, they announced that Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride is moving from this year to March of next year, and that's maybe a smart move because we have like another Frankenstein, like Guillermo del Toro's doing a Bride of Frankenstein thing. So I'm curious about both, but I'm really more excited about One Battle After Another. I think there's been a couple titles for this movie that we've seen, but like this one seems to be the locked in, like this is what the title is. So I'm excited for both.
Yeah, I'm excited for both. It's kind of almost like surreal seeing Leonardo DiCaprio in a new trailer for something, just because I feel like he's so picky and choosy, and it's every so often, every couple of years when we see him in something new. So seeing him in just like the short little tease that we get for One Battle After the Another, I'm already sold just because it's Leo. Again, like you, PTA, he doesn't like fire on all cylinders in terms of every movie he makes. I really love There Will Be Blood and Punch Drunk Love, and I really like Boogie Nights, but like there's movies like Licorice Pizza where I'm like, yeah, it's fine, and Phantom Thread I like a lot, but like I don't love, and like it's a lot of the respect but don't love. Like a lot of these movies don't fully resonate with me, whereas like if you look at a different director's filmography, I'm like, yeah, that's my shit. PTA, I'm like, yeah, I mostly enjoy your filmmaking, but I don't necessarily enjoy all of your films. Excited to see Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, but I do think that is kind of a smart move, just because I feel like going into this year we had like, oh wow, we have The Wolfman, and we have Guillermo del Toro doing a Frankenstein movie, and now we have Maggie Gyllenhaal doing the Bride movie. So I wonder what kind of reasoning they have for that in terms of that shift. It's not like a major shift, and I don't know if there's like anything behind the scenes in terms of reshoots or any worries that we need to have, or if it's just more of like, hey, we think it'd be better in March. So I'm excited to see both of those movies, and I'm sure I'll be seeing both of those movies opening week. A little bit of movie news that I thought was just fucking awesome that came out this past week that I don't think probably a lot of people have heard about, and I think just speaks into the overwhelming, large pit of why Netflix is just overwhelmingly stupid to me at times. You have, this isn't necessarily the story, but you have Electric State getting a budget of $300+ million for that movie, which I didn't see, but also it's a movie that's going only to streaming. You're not going to put it in a theatrical release, so like, how is it going to recoup all that money? I don't know. Fuck it. You guys can run your company any way you want. But also, in terms of awesome things that Netflix continues to do, Hollywood filmmaker Carl Eric Rinch, who, you haven't heard of him? Well, he directed the amazing movie 47 Ronin. He has been charged with defrauding Netflix to the tune of $11 million, which is so awesome. We should all be doing this. I heavily support anyone that works in the film industry that can take one over on Netflix. Please do. Fuck this streaming service. That's death to the theatrical experience. He had been working on a TV series, supposedly, for the streamer that was never completed. Instead, according to the prosecutors, this 47-year-old director spent the streamer's funds to speculate on cryptocurrency, stay in high-end hotels and rentals, and also buy luxury cars. And I think he spent like over $600,000 on luxury mattresses. Just wild receipts for some extraordinary purchases. And it makes you wonder, like, Netflix, who's checking your fucking bank account? Who's writing the checks? Who is balancing the checkbook? What is happening? How are you just going to write off $11 million to someone that, like, hey, you haven't given us this show that you promised you were working on? We have no one checking tabs on you. We're just going to keep giving you money. Which, like, fine, Netflix, if you want to bleed yourself dry and fucking die and not be a streaming service anymore, death to streaming, I'd fully support. Because streaming is the death, for me, to the theatrical experience and is the reason why the theaters are slowly dwindling, which they're not fully to blame. Theaters are doing a good job at committing suicide as well, but streaming services, get the fuck out of here. Go back to just movies being in theaters. But also Netflix, what the fuck are you doing? Are you a bunch of fucking idiots? We'll just give you $11 million. We're not going to keep tabs or check or really wonder. Yeah, you can buy $600,000 on mattresses. Yeah, I can't wait to see how that works into the show that you're working on. Can't wait. Oh, you bought fucking 5 new cars? Sick. How does that work in the show? Oh, it's not in the show. Okay, well, yeah, we'll give you more money, though. So I'm harping about streaming. Whatever.
It's funny.
It's also hilarious just to see a man almost get away with it. Like, how did you guys fuck that up so bad? So
I wonder, like, which mattress, like, purple mattress or, like,
Serta. What are you buying?
Or, like,
what is a $600,000 mattress?
Those mattresses that come in a tube and then they, like, really inflate really big
you take
as
out
soon
the
as
box,
you, like,
just
cut.
like...
You take your box cutter and, like, they all just, like, pop out at you. I don't know. What mattress is
That's crazy. Just, like, 80 California Kings. Not even. That's still, like, $600,000 on mattresses. What the fuck?
Purple mattresses are pretty cool.
My brother just bought a house for $600,000. Like, how'd you buy fucking mattresses for that amount? That's crazy.
That's an incredible question. I don't know what he did, but it's a very funny story.
What are you doing? And also, like, I think he's just, like, fresh off of a divorce, so, like, he's putting those mattresses probably to use. This is so stupid. How did Netflix okay this? And, again, this isn't the main story, but how did Electric State get made for $300,000 when it's only going direct to streaming? If you put a movie in theaters, you're going to make money. You're going to recoup some of those losses. But also, when you put it on your streaming service later, after it has some word of mouth, some buzz, that boosts your viewership on your streaming service. I'm 24. I work for a window cleaning company, and I know this. What the fuck are you doing?
I know earlier I mentioned that I need you to watch Severance. I need you to watch The Electric State so we can talk about that as well.
Yeah.
That's like number 2 right behind that.
Watch Electric State commit suicide.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. Last little bit of movie news. We got a Starship Troopers reboot in the works from Neil Blomkamp, director of District 9 and Chappie and Elysium and Gran Turismo, which is a movie I actually like. I think it's a pretty good movie. But it's this kind of reworking in the story. It's not a remake of the Paul Verhoeven movie. Sources say that the goal is to kind of bring it back to the source material. I have actually never seen Starship Troopers. I know I need to, but this is one that I'm excited to watch before I see this reboot. I like Neil Blomkamp. I do. I think District 9 is incredible. Like I said, I like Gran Turismo. Elysium and Chappie I think are okay. But again, just kind of another like excuse almost to watch the original Starship Troopers. I think Paul Verhoeven's a very interesting filmmaker. RoboCop, I think, is like RoboCop's not one of my favorite movies of all time, but I think it is a perfect movie.
Interesting.
I think what RoboCop sets out to do, it does perfectly. And I like that movie a lot, but it's not in my top like 100. But I think the definition of like a perfect movie can be different for everyone. And I think RoboCop, in what it was trying to do, what the director was trying to do, in everything that happened in that movie, I think it is perfect. So
I feel like if that's how you feel about RoboCop, you might have that same reaction to Starship Troopers.
yeah, I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, I love Starship Troopers. I was late to the game. I just grew up on RoboCop, and I love Paul Verhoeven. I love that movie and the satire within that movie. And that's another thing that's special within Paul Verhoeven's adaptation of Starship Troopers is you get a lot of those satirical elements, which I haven't read the book. I'm not going to act like I did. But from what it sounds like is those satirical elements within the film that Paul Verhoeven made were Paul Verhoeven original. Like, that's all from him, a lot of that satire you get. And from the sounds of it, Neil Blomkamp is going back to, like, the original book, the more just the brunt of the story, the sci-fi action of it, and less the satirical route. So I'm interested to see. I'm not super against remakes if there's like a difference in it. You're trying to better something that was poorly done before, or like you're gonna just take a different route with this, which this kind of goes into that, where it sounds like just a different route, a more kind of faithful retelling of the story based in the book. So I'm excited to see it. As someone who is a big fan of Starship Troopers, I love RoboCop. It is in my top 100. I also agree it's a perfect movie, but it just, for me, it works a lot, and I mostly based off nostalgia. I used to watch that movie with my dad a lot, so that movie is awesome. Regardless, it's a long fucking episode, I guess, today. I remember you giving me the 52-minute count when we were still talking about the movies we watched before we got into fucking physical media releases as well as movie news. So this is a long fucking episode. What we over, like, we got to be close to 2 hours.
We're cooking at like an hour 55 right now.
Fuck.
So
all right,
if you've made it this far, like, thank you.
Thank you for listening.
That's crazy.
There's definitely no one listening this far except for me at a later date when I'm listening back to see if my screaming was a bit too loud, because I know we're not going to edit this to fix the audio.
And we don't do that here.
No, this is supposed to be like basement yard, almost beer, like just bullshit.
We have like pieces of like poster board with like some foam taped to it. So like we're just doing
the reason why we don't video any of this.
Yeah, we're working on that maybe in the future, but for right now it's bare bones.
It's very bare bones for just two guys that love movies and are just really good friends. But anyways, if you sat with us for this long, thank you for sitting down and having some hopeful liquor drinks. Maybe not Lagavulin, because I did cough through some of those last couple of sips. But this was another one of those episodes, the Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast, where we just yapped on about fucking movies that we watched. Thanks for sitting with us. If you are interested in more that we have to say, which I doubt you are, because this episode, again, is far too long, we do have a TikTok and an Instagram where we go a little bit more in depth in terms of movie reviews and news in terms of what's happening in the world of movies. In the world of film, it's not just about what happens on screen, but also about who's sitting next to you in the theater.
For Mason and I at Slate Night, that's a wrap.
See you, bitch.